Lack of self-control, focus, trouble understanding directions, impulse control, self-control, all of these qualities make it extremely difficult sometimes for us to discipline our children with ADHD. Whether they're teen, preteen, children, husbands, we'll just go with it. We've got to discipline differently because actually their brains process information differently. So as a former public and private school teacher and ADHD parent, I'm going to share with you 3 of my biggest tips that are going to help you when you are disciplining your children with ADHD. And for fun, at the end, I'm going to share with you my 3 most successful and favorite punishments. It sounds so weird, but I don't know. It's cool. Okay, just wait till the end and I'll explain. So let's just dive right in. So the first one is whenever you're giving any kind of direction, discipline, correction, redirection, you want to do this with no emotion. You want a calm face, calm body, and calm voice. And that is because people that have ADHD, children, teens, preteens, everyone alike, they have problems with emotional regulation. They also rely on outside stimulation to determine how they respond emotionally. So they don't rely on themselves internally, they do it more from what's going on outside. So in other words, the way you act, your emotion that you have when you approach your child is going to affect their emotion in the moment. So we want to come with them with calmness, calm voice, calm face, calm body. As a result, when they're actually listening to you, they can actually focus because they don't go into that fight or flight or freeze mode. They can focus, listen, and understand. This is also true when they are having a very difficult time and they're angry or they're upset, because there's a lot of times that they are in trouble because they did something wrong because of an emotion. They tend to base their actions on emotion. And so they may be all up in a roar emotionally. You need to approach them with that calm voice, calm face, calm body. And that's going to help calm them down, look at the situation at hand, and decide if it was actually the best thing to do or not to do. In this case, it's also very good to listen to what they have to say. It is okay for you to validate their feelings. In fact, it's actually very good. I'm going to repeat that again. Very good to validate their feelings. It's okay that you are scared. I understand that you are angry. I understand that you are hurt. And then you need to approach the behavior differently. I understand that you are hurt, that your brother called you a monkey, and it's not okay that you reacted by tackling him. You separate the behavior from the feeling. You can validate this one, but this was the wrong behavior. You should have acted differently. Your feelings are still validated. And you want to use the word and instead of but when you bridge those two together. You don't want to invalidate the validation that you just made. This also means that you will have to do a lot of role play when there is some misbehaving moments and disobedience. You're going to have to go back, redirect them, and do some role play with that. Another thing that is really good to remind them in these moments when they're upset because somebody hurt them or they're angry is that you cannot control what other people do. You can only control yourself. The second tip that I have for you is we want to be proactive. So a lot of ADHD children, teens, preteens, they struggle with executive functioning. They struggle with understanding directions and then following through with them. It's hard for them and they actually need your assistance. Let me just give you an analogy because a lot of this area that they struggle with comes out in their behavior and their attitude and how they treat people and what they do, and emotions get involved. But let me just give you a very, very clear analogy. Hopefully this is going to help. So we all understand the learning disability dyslexia. So when someone who has dyslexia looks at words, the words can be flip-flopped, turned around, letters are all over the place, and it's very difficult for them to read. And so they have to have extra tutoring sessions. They have to sit down and learn how to read those words properly. It's not something that happens overnight for them. You know, one time, oh, that word says and, they all of a sudden know and. They need to work at it. The same is true for ADHD, but it's going to be in those areas of executive functioning, understanding how to follow directions, impulse control, focus, all of that. They just have to work harder, and they will need you as the parent to kind of tutor them through this or provide tools, resources for them so they can help make those accommodations for themselves. They can't have someone doing it for them the rest of their lives. You're giving them the tools. Teach them how to fish, don't give them a fish. And all of these tools are proactive tips to prevent disobedience. The first one is we want to teach them how to organize, how to build structure in their life. And this means that everything in your house or in your classroom or in your schoolroom, whatever it is, their room has a place where it belongs, and you're actually going to show them how to put it back in that place. Same thing with routines. There is a time to go to bed, there's a time to eat, there's a time to wake up, and you want to get them in some kind of routine. Some, as they get older, you want a looser routine, but a routine is very good. There are also routines within routines. So for example, going to bed, you want to brush your teeth. So you take the toothbrush off the hook, pull out the toothpaste, open the cap, wet the toothbrush, put the toothpaste on, close the cap, put the toothpaste back, so making sure that you're putting those specific instructions on putting things away in that breakdown in the routine. Very important. Or else they're just gonna leave it out because they're just gonna forget. You wanna teach them how to follow directions without skipping over steps. This also applies within the education world. For example, math. You have to follow, especially when you get up into upper level math, you have to follow step by step by step by step. If you try to skip a step, you're gonna mess up and the problem's gonna be wrong. You have to know how to do the step properly, and you have to go slow. Same idea. There's routines, there's structures, you gotta follow them or you're gonna mess up, and you gotta teach them how to do that. You also have to keep them accountable. Eventually, you won't have to keep them as accountable, but you will need to check in on them because they may forget, especially when they turn, 12. Another thing is you want to teach them about priorities. What should be their priorities, not what they want to be their priorities, because, school, chores, taking a bath, eating. They will skip eating sometimes if they're so fixated on something else. Taking care of themselves is a priority. And for those of us that pray, prayer is a priority for them all the time. And for us, just saying, you can do this through modeling and by doing it with them and repeating it every single day. You want to teach them how to use planners. You want to teach them how to use checklists. You want to teach them how to use alarms. Checklists, by the way, are one of those things that is like the golden nugget, I guess, what you would say, for people that have ADHD. When you have that checklist and you write out all the things that you need to get done in the day, and as you go through the day, just start checking them off, each little check mark is like a little dopamine hit. So if you don't know, people that have ADHD have low dopamine, and the dopamine doesn't regulate like it does in someone who doesn't have ADHD. And there's this need for these dopamine hits. Get a checklist and write it out and check it off. It feels so good and so satisfying to check it off. We also want to minimize the distractions, and that can be anywhere from sound to TV, electronics, the window, a lawnmower outside the window. Don't have them sitting and doing their homework right in front of the television because they're just not going to remember anything that they learned or even do it. And teach them that sometimes a nice, quiet room is the best place to focus. So the third tip that I have for you, which I feel like we've actually had more than 3 tips, but hey, you know what? Who's counting? I'm supposed to be. We want to set expectations for them, and we also want to address any disobedience and rewards immediately. In fact, a little tidbit here, when you praise and give them congratulations more than criticism, that's actually what they need. So go out of your way and praise them. So praise them for walking down the stairs in the morning, for wearing matching clothes. They're just wearing clothes in general. Now this is kind of hard because as a parent of a child who has ADHD, there is a lot of correction and redirection, and you're going to do that way more for them than for your other kids. It's actually very exhausting, but you have to do it. You have to redirect and correct. And actually, all these things that I mentioned in step number 2, if you have them in place already and get into that routine, it's actually going to be a lot easier for you. But here's another thing too, is when we are correcting and redirecting, we want to do it in a way that is not degrading to the person. There's a couple ways to do that, but one of my favorite ways to do that is look at this as a way to be teaching them, not disciplining them, not redirecting them, teaching them. Think of it as you're really brilliant in calculus, okay? Let's just say you are, okay? I don't know if you are or not. Maybe you are, but whatever. You're really good at calculus, and you're trying to teach a student how to do these problems that has maybe only had Algebra 1. You have to take the time and be patient with them, walk them step by step by step through the process, and you're teaching them. You're not yelling at them for not knowing how to do calculus because it's really hard. You're talking to them as a teacher would to a student. Don't get frustrated with them. Know that this is something that they struggle with. You don't struggle with it. they do and you're trying to help them, unless you have ADHD, and so then you can share your struggles with them and you can have like a little ADHD party. Back to setting expectations. You really need to sit down and make these expectations clear to them. So one of the expectations in my home is after you finish eating, we work as a family to clean up the kitchen area. Somebody sweeps, somebody does the dishes, somebody does the countertops and tables and picks up the floor. The expectation is, I don't have to ask you, you just have to do it. That's it. If they don't do it, there's going to be consequences. And this is where I get into my favorite discipline punishment techniques, favorite punishments to give. All right, and before I get into these punishments that I like to give, if you liked this video so far, feel free to subscribe to my channel and also give me a thumbs up to tell the algorithm that you liked it and they'll share it with other people. So before I talk about this punishment, you have to understand that there's lots of different philosophies out there. And the one that I've seen a lot, which seems to differ in the ADHD world, is the negative discipline and the positive discipline. A negative discipline is when you take something away from the child, and a positive discipline is when you give them something that they don't want to do. And some people will say negative is better, some people say positive is better. Just read into it. Well, for me, I can tell you what works with me. Of course, saying to them, hey, when you get this done, then you're going to get this reward. Rewards are great. Set them up. I even have one of my kids came to me and said, Mom, stop trying to threaten me with stuff because it doesn't work and it stresses me out. Remind me of the good thing that's going to happen when I'm done with this. Just remind me of that, which was such good advice. Like, literally, this is my 13-year-old telling me this, which is actually really good because it builds confidence, encouragement, bonding between the parent and child. But my favorite punishments. The first one is a positive discipline, and that is to give them another chore if they don't do something. I mean, it's really simple. It's really easy. They just do it and they're done. They don't have to dwell on it and worry about it. It's like, I got to organize the pantry. I got to clean out the refrigerator. The kids do have certain chores assigned to them. And sometimes if the other kid has been doing really, really well, I'll replace that job assignment will go to their sibling. But it's over with. Like, it's done and over with. Like, they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to dwell on it. It's not like they lose time with their friends online or they don't get to go to an event. I mean, of course, those are great for really big consequences, but little ones, just give them an extra chore. The other one that I really like is, I believe this is also a positive discipline. It's timeout. I think timeout is just the best when it comes to kids that have ADHD, because not only is it a chance for them to get punished and separate them from what's going on, it gives them a chance to calm down, get that calm voice, calm attitude, rethink their behavior. Timeout's great. That's one of my favorites, especially for the younger kids. The chores is better for the older kids and the teens. Sometimes I put my teen in timeout, like go to your room for the rest of the night. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do talk a lot about ADHD on this channel. I do have a playlist right here. I also talk about homeschooling, and my other daughter has Down syndrome. So I have both up here if you're interested in either one of those, ADHD, Down syndrome. And thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.